Page 2 is blank on purpose. Page 3 is an example of a statement you get from the bank. Okay. And then page 4 is what is actually called the reconciliation, which we're going to go in order. We're going to set this up. I used to have checking accounts all the time. Used to use checks before they had debit cards. That's your only option. Every checking account I've ever had a form that was almost identical to this. Okay, so this is straight out of a checking account. This is what's called the reconciliation. We're going to get that in a second. So on the front page, again, you decide you want to open up a checking account. I want to do a checking account. I've never done one. I'm going to do one. So what happens is you open your checking account on January 1st. You start off your checking account with $1,500 deposit straight off the bat, wherever you got it from. I think on the original setup I had, you got it from your income tax, but the problem is we don't get income tax till April or May. So just wherever you got $1,500 from. You started your deposit. That's the beginning of balance. Don't write on anything yet. You'll see in a second. So at day 1, you have a $1,500 balance on your checking account. Since it's a checking account and you want to write checks because you don't want to have to go buy money orders or whatever, you're going to have to buy checks. Now, in the old days, you had to buy them from the bank. Now, if you get a checking account, again, most of you guys won't do it, but if you get a checking account, now you can go through like Vistaprint. You go a dozen other places to get the checks. But in this way, you get them through the bank. So I'm buying a box of checks from the bank. It is 500 checks per box. It's going to cost me $17, which 20 years ago was a good price. I don't know what it is today. So I take the $1,500 minus $17, and my balance after buying the checks is $1,483. I start writing checks for bills and stuff. Check number 100, I'm going to make a car payment. Again, keep the balance going. Check 101, since I've just started writing checks, never written it before, I start writing check 101, whatever it's going to be, and I screw up. I make a mistake. I write the wrong person, I write the wrong amount, I do something wrong. You notice I record the check and I write the word void. Remember, I told you last week that on the bottom of a check is your account number, your routing number. If they get a hold of a check, they can steal you blind. So you always record where the checks are. I voided this one out. I know what happened to the check. I will write void on the check. I'll rip it into little pieces. I'll burn it on whatever, but I know where the check was. I go to the next one, check 102. I'm writing groceries, Walmart. Just this is for your benefit, so whatever you need to write enough notes so when you know where the check went. You continue down, you write your electric bill. You start writing check 104. Again, you make another mistake. Again, you write void, so you know where the check is. Go to trash. You write your gas bill. You make your house payment. You're down to $155.16. Hey, I can live with this. You're driving to work the next day and your alternator falls out the back of your car or the front of your car engine on the road. I can't drive a car without an alternator, so I got to get it fixed. And this is 30 years ago, so the price is really cheap. So I buy an alternator for my car. I install it myself. Problem is, alternator costs $160. I only had $155. Okay, so my balance is now negative. My checking account says they will cover my overdraft checks, but they will charge me an overdraft fee, NSF, non-sufficient funds. I've never had a checking account before. I know that I bounced a check. I want to get on top of everything. I want to make sure everything's great. So I go ahead and subtract the non-sufficient funds fee from my account. Makes me a little bit farther in the hole, but I keep track of my money. I get paid $190, which brings me back above zero. I'm good to go. I make my car insurance payment. Last bill. So my register, to my knowledge, is up to date. I then get in the mail the statement from the bank. Remember, the bank has more information than I do. They don't have the same information, but they have information. So you have your statement. At the top of the statement, again, most statements I've ever seen, you see the same stuff. What was my starting balance at the beginning? Well, I didn't have an account at the beginning of the month, so my starting balance of the month was zero. I deposited $1,500. They paid me $1 interest. Wait a second, I didn't know about that. The statement shows it, but I didn't know about it. They had documentation on $629.84 worth of withdrawals, $17 service charge, which was the checks. According to the bank, I still got $854.16. According to me, I got $124.16. There is a difference there. That's where reconciliation comes in. I got to make the two agree. So what it does is it breaks it down. Deposits and credits. According to the bank, I've made one deposit. According to me, I've made two. This is a list of service charges. $17 checks. Yeah, we already got that. We're good to go. And then at the bottom, the guys, my father-in-law used to write checks for everything. He would have sometimes 10 pages of checks listed. Okay, so this is just short, just enough so we can see what we got. You'll notice nowhere on this check does it say who the check is to. It says the date that the bank got the check, not when it was written, but when the bank got the check number, and the amount of the check. Next to 102, you'll see a little asterisk. I took the note off the bottom, but every checkbook I've ever seen has got that. The little asterisk, all it means is the bank knows what your first check was, 100. They got out of order. They got check 102 first. All they're trying to show you is, hey, we got out of order. You may want to check to see if you got the other checks written. That's all it's so. It has no effect on any math. It's for your information. That's it. Also, and you don't have to do it on this, but I would recommend if you ever do a checking account, please understand this. When my father-in-law was alive, he balanced the checkbook religiously. He would get it within 1 penny every month. He would do a great job. When he died and my mother-in-law had to take over, that woman could not write and she couldn't add worth beans. I helped her for years balance her checkbook. She would write the number 648 in her register, and on the check she'd have 848. So she would always have, so you always check the numbers to make sure that they're what you wrote. Because the bank may make a mistake. So always check these numbers, compare against the register, make sure it is good. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to check. Now, here's where it comes on. And if you want to, you can separate these again. You're going to put them back together when you're done. What we're going to do is we're going to split the screen. And I'm sorry it's small, but that's okay. You guys got the full screen over there. I'm just trying to put as much as I can so you can see it. You're going to put your statement and your register side by side. Or you can go back and forth, your choice, how you want to do it. Okay? And what you're going to do is, if you find something on the register and on the statement both, you're going to put the check mark on both spots. If you only see it on the register but not on the statement, no check marks. If you only see it on a statement but not on the register, no check marks. Only if it's in both spots. So, looking at this, I see a deposit of $1,500, check mark, because I see them in both spots. Box of checks for $17, box of checks for $17. Check number 100. Right over here. It's not in order. You gotta look around sometimes. Check. Check. You don't have to worry about the voids. They're not gonna be on the statement because you're the only one that knows about them. So leave those blank if you like. Check 102. Check 102. Check 103. Check 103. You need to make sure you get these checks because, guys, what happens is at the end of the month, you may not have some checks on one side or another. You got to carry this over to the next month. So you don't want to put a check that's not needed because you need to know if it's blank. When I lived in Louisiana, we wrote a check for state income tax one time. Mailed it to the state of Louisiana. It took 6 months before the check showed up on the statement. So for 6 months, we had to keep going back to that check to see if it had been, we had a check next to it. And finally, 6 months after we mailed the check, the state of Louisiana finally cashed it and we got it showed up on our statement. Okay, so we got check 105. Check 105. Check 106. Not there. Don't put a check next to 106. It's not on the statement. Check 107. 107. 107. NSF. That would fall under the service charges. We don't have an NSF. So don't put a check in the spot. We took money out of our account we didn't need to because we never bounced a check according to the bank. We'll come back to that in a second. Paycheck. We only got one deposit. We got two over here, one over there, so leave it blank. Do not check it. And then the last check we wrote, check 108. I don't see that either, okay? So what we got is we got all the checks there. Now, we're going to get your register up to date. So stuff that showed up on the statement that are not in the register, we're going to get it corrected. So first off, we're going to fix a screw up that we did. It's our fault. We're going to fix it. Remember, we took an extra $15 out in SF that we didn't need to. So we're going to add it back. So on the next to bottom line here, however you want to phrase it, mistake correction, error correction, boo-boo, NSF, something, put some sort of note. So 10 years from now, when you're looking through there, why do I have this $15 added to my account? Make a note that you can remember. I'm going to add back $15. And it's a deposit, so it's going to be $15. So what's 124.16 plus $15? 129. Oops, excuse me. You got to catch me on that. 139. Thank you. Try standing up here sometimes. Okay. 139.16. Okay, that's done. If you want to, you can go up here and make a check mark and steer in NSF. You don't have to, but if you want to, you got everything covered. Now, you're going to look on the statement. Is there anything on the statement that's not in your register? What? No, well, no. Paycheck's over here, but it's not over here. Anything on the statement that's not on the register? Look at the top line. Top line. Interest. Very good. Didn't show it very well. Yeah. I know we got interest. There we go. Sorry. Top line was gone. Interest. They paid us $1 interest. That's ours. But we didn't know about it. So what you're gonna do is on the very bottom line, interest paid, interest earned, something to do with interest. And it's a deposit, so it's $1 down here. 139 plus $1,
140.
140, 16. Make sure you get everything there. Okay. The register is up to date. The statement, as best as we know.
Hey, Mr. Wolverton,
Yes.
so your balance on the second line to the bottom, it says 136.
It's 139. I apologize. 139. Again, I'm trying to write in a small spot and it's kind of hard standing this close, but it's 139. Yes. Okay. Now, next step. Insert picture, reconciliation. Almost done, guys. Okay. Okay. You. All right. There we go. All right. Now, put your register, you flip it over, and you're gonna be on your reconciliation page and your register. Okay? Now, this is where the check marks come in handy, where you need the check marks from earlier. Remember, if there's no check mark, it didn't show up on the statement. And if it didn't show up on the statement, the bank doesn't know about it. So it is what is called an outstanding check. I've written a check, the bank doesn't know about it, but it's out there in the world. My state income tax from Louisiana. I mailed it out. Those funds are already accounted for. I had a $200 state income tax I mailed off to the state. If I decide I gotta have a pizza and I use it, and the state shows up suddenly, I just bounce the check. The state will get very mad at me. So once you write a check and it's recorded, don't touch those funds, even if they're still in your bank. It's already called for. It's already accounted for. The bank doesn't know about it, but it's there. You can't use it. It's an outstanding check. You can have outstanding deposits too. I drove by the bank, I put a paycheck in the slot, and I drove off. Well, the bank's closed tonight. They published the statement at midnight. They never saw your check because it's in the drop box. It's there, but they didn't see it. Keep that in mind. So, over on the register part, outstanding checks, checks that you wrote that did not show up on the statement. If it doesn't have a check mark out there, that's what we're looking for. So the first one is check number 106. It's your house payment. The bank doesn't care what it's called. It's for $858. Again, don't make a check there, just record it on the reconciliation page. 858.
858.
Right there. Okay, any other checks that you wrote that did not show up yet? Oh, check number 108 for your car insurance, which is $46. Okay, that's the last one. Again, my father-in-law did this. You sometimes get pages and pages and pages. Okay, so what you're going to do is the next part is add the numbers up. $904.00. That is what the bank does not know about, but you've written a check for it. It's in the mail. Check's in the mail. Okay. Now we go to the next step, outstanding deposits. I put a deposit in the bank closed and submitted my statement before they saw it. So it's there. Bank didn't know about it. Any deposits up there that don't have a check mark? 190 paycheck, and this one you need the date. So on the 15th. And it's for 190. That's the only one out there, so the 190 plus nothing is an equal 190. Okay. Now, what you're going to do is, looking at your statement, it's the last time you're going to look at your statement. It asks for the ending balance that the statement says you have. So it's 854.16. That's what the statement says you have. Obviously, you don't have that, but you got, that's what the bank. What are my outstanding checks? 904. Subtract, calculator, 854.16 minus 904. Obviously, it's going to be a negative number. What are we at? 49, negative 49.
24.
What?
24.
Negative 49.84. Make sure you got the negative number there so you keep track of it. Next line down is, what are my outstanding deposits? My check, 190. And it says add that. So negative 49.86, excuse me, negative 49.84 plus 190 is going to be 140.16. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, we already did the worksheet on this, 4.5. We'll ask you to compare this number and this number should be the same.
How did you get 16 cents? That says 84 cents up there.
854.16 minus 904. And then you have add 190.00.
But where'd you get that 16 at? When they're
And
in
the
it?
math.
No, I get it now.
Put the math in
My
the
bad.
calculator.
Do the math, it's in the calculator, just don't overthink it. It works. Okay. Now, when I already told you, when my father-in-law did this 10, 15 pages of checks, if he didn't get it to the exact penny every single month, he would spend hours trying to find that penny. If he didn't find the penny after several hours of doing this, he would go to the bank and get the bank to sit down with him, and he'd go through it till he found that penny. And then he'd get it squared, he'd be okay. My mother-in-law, before I started helping her, if she got it within $20, she'd be happy. When I started helping her, and remember, she wrote really bad and her math was really sucked. Sometimes at the end of her and I sitting there working on the checking account, if we got it within $5 after 2 hours, she said, I'm good. Okay? We had a lady from a bank come up here for life skills a few years ago talking about checking accounts. And she said, when you write the check to make the math easier, instead of writing 104.32, just write 105. Okay, it makes the math easier. Problem is, at the end of the month, you're never going to get the two to agree. Never. So the whole point of what I'm saying is, guys, if you ever do this, nobody here probably will, but if you ever do this, you make the choice, how good is good. I'm good as long as it's within $1,500, $100. I'm good if it's long, whatever. So when you staple this together and put your name on it, make sure you get it in the right order. Make sure it's on it's in the basket with your name on it. This will go onto the notebook, so I will have this graded and back to you tomorrow for the notebook. I've got nothing else for you today. Continue to work on your notebook and continue to work on what you owe me.